Welcome to Thinkin', a podcast series by Kautilya School of Public Policy.
This is our inaugural podcast. Adab, मैं हूं Waseem Ahmad.
Hello everyone, welcome to our special episode of podcast series at Kautilya. Today, we are interviewing a personality who has influenced the thought of Indian political and social scene. Dr. Kancha Ilaiah has brought to us many dimensions that were never considered or probably never valued. He has authored bestsellers like Why I'm Not a Hindu, Buffalo Nationalism, God as a Political Philosopher. From shepherd boy to an intellectual is his autobiography. His latest book, published in February this year, is titled The Shudras, Vision for a New Path. He calls it the modern manifesto for the Shudra community. Sir, welcome.
Thank you.
So let's start with the first question, that is about your name itself. Your name was Kancha Ilaiah, then you added the word shepherd to it. Why did you feel the need to add the name of your community to your name itself?
Well, in India, the castes names are added to their name by Brahmins, Kshatriyas. Brahmins add Sharma, Shastri, Chaturvedi, Dvivedi, Mukherjee, Banerjee, and so on. So Kshatriyas add Singh. Whereas in South Indian states, some add Reddy, some add Rao. Now, my name, Kancha Ilaiah, is a very rural name. It is not considered to be Sanskritic. So this name was being humiliated by these Brahminic forces, even from my days of student in high school, in college, and even in the university. So then there were, on many occasions on my writings, the Brahmins were protesting that, you are writing to weaken our system and so on. And Vaishyas also protested when I wrote Post-Hindu India book.
Mm-hmm.
Then I thought, in order to elevate my historical occupational roots, I must add an English occupational name to my name. And this name is universally considered to be very divine, shepherd. And in India, the Harappan civilization is the earliest and most powerful civilization of the world. The economy was built by shepherds. Harappa himself was a human being, and he came from shepherd background because only shepherds could build a civilization. That was much before 1500, before the Aryan migration, and 1500 before Vedas were written. So the whole civilization is built around agriculture, village system, and cattle economy. But cattle economy is the primary economy of the world human beings. Therefore, I added in English, and not only me, after I did, a lot of people are adding English end name in order to destroy the caste votes. For example, several Dalits added cobbler and labor and potter, barber. So this is to completely change the humiliating position of the productive occupations. Because in the world, any country, these occupations are highly respected, spiritually very valid, and prophets were doing these things, for example, many prophets were shepherds themselves.
Yes, sir.
Jesus himself was a shepherd. Moses was a shepherd. Prophet Muhammad himself was a shepherd. So that is an incidentally historical coincidence. But my mother and my father, who were illiterates, and their parents and generations, we were shepherds. So I'm proud of now being shepherd because the world recognizes my historical occupation and heritage.
Absolutely, sir. So, Ambedkar and Phule gave the word Dalits. Kanshiram spoke about Bahujans. And in your book, in your writings, you write about Dalit Bahujans. You club the two words and call them Dalit Bahujans. When you say Dalit Bahujans, which are all the communities that you include?
Well, when Ambedkar wrote his main book, Annihilation of Caste, he did not use the word Dalit also. He used the concept called scheduled castes or depressed classes. Because at that time, for untouchables, the British government was using the concept depressed classes. Gradually, the term Dalit, which actually came from Pali language, from a Buddhist heritage, was used in Maharashtra from 70s onwards, and it became popular. So the media also started using the word Dalits for untouchables. Mm-hmm. But there is no one concept used for all of them, untouchables, Shudras, other oppressed communities together. Then Kanshiram came in 84. He started Bahujan Samaj Party. Then he said, I am not going to use the word Dalit, which means actually begging. So the backward classes and untouchables, tribals, put together, including Muslims, sometimes he was including, called Bahujans. In his concept of Bahujan, he included Jats, Gujars, Patels, Kamas, Reddys, who were not in a reservation now. That was also the broad Mandal Commission definition for backward class. But when I wrote Why I'm Not a Hindu in 1990, starting with after Babri Masjid demolition, I found there is a problem there. The media was referring to OBCs as Bahujans and Dalits to the untouchables. So neither Kanshiram concept was getting popularized in the larger domain, nor the Maharashtrian Dalit concept. So what I did was that Phule used the word Shudra and Atishudra for farmers, tillers, and Dalits, including Marathas and up to Dhobis, down to Dhobis, he called Shudras. And untouchables he called Atishudras, more Shudra. Mm-hmm. Then I realized that unless a broad category where the majority are properly defined. So one problem with Kanshiram was, you are saying Bahujan. Bahujan means majority. Yes. If you include OBCs, Dalits, they will be majority. Mm-hmm. But if you include, let us say, Muslims, Brahmins, and upper caste with Dalits, that will also become majority. Mm-hmm. So majority or some castes from OBCs and others, if you include it, is majority. Mayawati, for example, in 2017 election, Took the Brahmin help, Muslim help, Dalit help, not much of OBC vote. She got majority vote and she said, that is my Bahujan. So I said, no, this is not the way. So I anticipated all this problem. So I said it should be Dalit Bahujan as one word, which means suppressed, oppressed, and exploited majority. It is properly defined. It should be suppressed group, oppressed group, and exploited, not merely social suppression and oppression, but economic exploitation also should be part of it. And they should be majority. Now, by this, I have not included Muslims in that. I have not included even tribals in that, because they are outside the fold of caste. So the Shudras and Dalits, 52% and 16.5%. They constitute 78% almost. Yeah, 68, roughly about 70%. So they constitute definite majority and they are suppressed, oppressed, and exploited. That is what the definition is.
Great, sir. So in an article that you wrote for EPW titled Merit of Reservations, you say that pre-Mandal, the reservations that existed for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes did not address the caste system, and it was not linked to the modern notion of social justice. Why do you say so, sir?
Well, the idea of social justice as it came from Europe by then, the idea was first elaborated by John Rawls. Looking at the European system and the kind of welfare economy that emerged in the post-World War world. How to distribute food, how to distribute material resources, and so on and so forth, was not properly adopted in India. Ambedkar's writings did not define social justice in that language. It talked about reservation, also for historically uneducated and socially educationally backward. But by 1930s, he started focusing more on untouchables because they were minority, they were more oppressed, untouchable. Then came the issue of Muslim reservation in the elections and other. So when he was working as a contemporary to Jinnah, he mainly focused around the Dalits now. So the OBC issue, he was concerned, he wrote a book over the Shudras also, but it was not, and gradually he included the OBCs in Hindu system, the Shudras in Hindu system. Therefore, all of them were called in his writings also caste Hindus. So Brahmins and Banyas, Kayastha, Khatri, and then the occupational artisanal group, all of them were called caste Hindus. Now, when the Mandal issue came, the question of historical deprivation of Shudras, because they did not get admission into Gurukulas, they have no priesthood right in Hinduism, they have temple entry, but they are unequals. The Brahmins don't eat their food anywhere in the temple or outside. So they were humiliated. Their agriculture also is treated a pollution by Brahmin intellectuals. I realized that till the Mandal came, social justice was not comprehensively understood in India. Now, when the Mandal came, the IITs, IIMs, and central medical institutes, they were in Brahmin, Banya, Kayastha, what we call Khatri and Kshatriyas, Dvijas. They started talking about merit. Now, when it came to Muslims, they were saying they are outsiders from India, they are Pakistanis. And when it came to Shudras, they were saying they are meritless. But the same Shudras were used against Muslims also. So they were in jails and their children, these people were in IITs, getting best education with government funds. So then I thought, this whole IIT Brahmanism is a very dangerous system. They have no merit actually, because they have never produced even a single grain in Indian soil. So then I wrote this article asking for altogether abolition of IITs itself, because that merit has no meaning for agrarian masses. Without IITs, we will do the same thing. And without agriculture, they cannot survive. IIT professors and IIM professors will starve and die. So these people were very stupid and arrogant. Then I said social justice means the SC, ST, OBCs getting into these institutions, and even the Shudra unreserved people should get into these institutions and capture them. Let the Brahmins, Banyas, Kayasthas, Khatris do agricultural work for some time. Let them soil their hands if they are Indians. Without working with your hands, you can't define yourself as Indian by eating the resource of others' labor. So I wrote this article. They were very upset. In that I said, if IITs are abolished, nothing will happen to our children. And these people who are educated at the cost of public money, they have not shown great merit in any one of the Indian industrial bases or anywhere in the world. And they are now being sent to, they are running away to America, Britain, France after their IIT degrees to work there as skilled labor. They are not great scientists or great intellectuals. So this was the context in which I wrote that article in Ep1. So the problem in intellectual problem is exactly the problem of Kautilya. Kautilya wrote Ardhashastra in 3rd century BC. The preamble of that book says, a king has to rule in India, whatever small or big kingdom he has. He should be a Kshatriya. Even if he is a Shudra, he should be given a Kshatriya status. He should rule according to Varna Dharma. That is, the Brahmin will be the prime minister of the state, head priest of the state. All schools will be under their control. The Kshatriyas will have semi-literate life under the Brahmin control. They will rule the state with the guidance of the Brahmin, and the army, Shudras will be there in the army. And the Vaishyas should do the business and give them money. The Shudras should produce food and serve these 3 classes. This was Kautilya first, not Manu actually. Manu came much later. So all these IIT, IIM, and then all these IAS, Dvijas are nothing but Kautilians, you know. Once they are Kautilian, and they made the state also Kautilian, that it works from up to downwards, and people don't matter to them, producers don't matter. Food production is pollution. This is absolutely, that is the reason why we are much more poorer than China. China is dictating terms, China is selling its goods, and these IITs, IIMs have not improved our technology to compete with China. And China is not going to going and learning in America and coming back. See, this is all they have spoiled the country with their anti-nature, anti-production, anti-human being approach, and so on. So I have a clear understanding. This country's educational system has to be completely rehauled, and English should become the medium of education from LKG to 12th. Later on, they can study whichever language they want. So in all government schools and private schools, English medium should be the main medium. One subject in Telugu, like Andhra Pradesh is doing now, is okay. But the Brahmins had Sanskrit once. They learned Persian. Muslim rulers also taught them Persian. They never taught any Shudras. Now they are using English. So we are put to such a great loss. And by putting us to great loss, they did not understand. They put the whole nation to the great loss all the time in the history.
True. So before going on to the question about the language of the education or the medium of instruction in the education, I have a question on the same article, Merit of Reservations. In that you spoke about the UN Durban Conference of 2001, where you had pitched the idea of reservation in private multinational corporations. The issue of caste and untouchability did get globalized. But the internationalization of this issue, has it actually helped? Because Dr. Suraj Yengde also speaks in a similar tone. And do you think there is a need to build coalitions with other marginalized communities from across the world?
No, we did with a very clear vision. The vision was that the urban conference was against racism and xenophobia. And the racism was in South Africa in a huge way, in most of the African countries during the colonial period. But the UN agenda was set by the African Americans, and they were UN accepted the idea of racism in the world and how to root it out. But they have never understood much more horrendous system called caste.
Mm-hmm.
And this has 3,000 years of history. This has untouchability, and even 200 years of British rule did not abolish it. Earlier, 800 years of Muslim rule also could not do anything with this. So the Brahmin forces managed it systematically during that time and later, and they got benefited. So we took it with the purpose that United Nations has to recognize it. To start with, the UN has to mobilize global resources to abolish untouchability. Because the question of indigenous people was also coming there. And the Dalits and backward classes, all the Shudras are indigenous people. They were the ones who built Harappan civilization, Harappa, city of Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Dholavira, and brick, woodcrafting, canal making. All our modern technology was started there in Harappan civilization. So they did not get any share in these countries, resources or equality, and Brahmanism has taken over everything. And we partly succeeded, though it could not become UN agenda, but we have globalized the idea at least. Now, along with race, caste is also being debated. See, yesterday, 2 days before, 2 days back, when an Indian TV cricketer attacked racism in the cricket, one famous cricket commentator said, "No, you have no right to talk against racism when you follow casteism."
Yes.
This would have been impossible without the Urban Conference debate.
Okay.
So Indian government opposed us, they constituted a judicial committee. We deposed before them, we went to world parliaments, we explained them. So what is wrong if we have two governments in the world. We have one government of our own nation, Indian government based on Indian constitution. We respect that. It is a national constitution. We also have UN as our government. UN looks into the world problems. Today, why are we going to UN to approve our vaccine? Covaxin is not approved, and we had to put pressure on UN to get it approved. Otherwise, you can't travel. Similarly, how can you live with dignity when there is untouchability and caste discrimination in the IITs, universities, central universities? Private universities don't give any reservation. So the historical farmer children, peasant children, labor children, Shudras and Dalits and Adivasis have to study in government schools and education. So this educational agenda we wanted to put on the world map. See, with 1.4 billion people, we are equally educated with, we are now less educated than South Africa. That was our worry then. Now partly it is achieved with Black Lives Matter, the Dalit Lives Matter issue. Now farmers' life matter. Farmers' life is nothing but Shudras. See, even the Kammas Reddys don't have any place in Delhi government, in ambassadors, in IAS, in top secretaries. Kammas Reddys are not there, or Lingayat Vakalingas are not there. So my advocacy through the Shudra book is that, okay, the Shudras brought BJP to power, but who is ruling Delhi? You are not there. The whole industrial economy is in the hands of Banyas and Brahmins. See, Banyas control 46% of industrial economy. Brahmins control 42%. All Shudras put together only 3.8. Dalits control only 2.7 or something like that. So tribals and Muslims are also nowhere in the wealth. All others constitute about 3.6% or something. So our idea is to enlighten the Shudras and OBCs, more focused way, to make every major issue international. So take, for example, RSS, BJP. They want to make Hinduism global. Vishwa Hindu Parishad, they organize. Why are they making global then? So why not caste and untouchability get globally understood? If they are good, let them be adopted. Let caste be adopted by Americans, let us see, or Europeans, or the Muslim countries. If they are good, they should adopt them.
True, sir.
So globalization is inevitable now.
Okay. So going back to the policy of language debate, in Andhra Pradesh last year, I think the government schools were being converted to all English medium. And you have been a very strong proponent of this policy of English medium education. The concern is the national education policy. It stresses that wherever possible, the medium of instruction should be in local or regional languages until grade 5 or 7. And a lot of surveys that are done, they also say that for children, the most comfortable language in the early school years is going to be their vernacular languages, so that they are more confident and there is less dropout rates. Do you think there's a contradiction between what you advocate and the surveys?
Absolutely not. The surveys are hypocritic. The surveyors themselves are hypocritic. And the institutions which are surveying are hypocritic. The media is hypocritic. The government agencies are hypocritic. If they really think so, then all their children should be in their regional languages, schools. Why are they sending to private English medium schools then? How private English medium school from LKG onwards is good for their children. Who have done the survey? Do the surveyors send their children to Telugu medium government schools or even private school? I want these private fellows to run very good Telugu medium schools and profit. Very good. World-class Telugu, world-class Hindi, world-class Tamil, world-class Malayalam. Let them make money. I have no problem. But they know that there is no world-class Telugu at all. There is no world-class Urdu. So both the lower caste, the higher caste, the Muslims, Christians, all of them are trying to be hypocrites in this. Muslim elite, they put their children in private English medium school only. Hey, if Allah's language is Arabic, why don't you educate in Arabic then? Why not in Urdu? Poor Muslim has to put their children in Urdu madrasa. And why Tata Birla Goenkas, why top RSS leaders are putting their children in private English medium schools? For LKG admission, 10 lakhs. They spend there. Reliance is running schools. Ambani is running schools. Tata is running schools. Now, why are they doing this? So, these fellows want this Dalits and Shudra OBCs and Adivasis should be slaves again in their regional language. If surveys say that great science, intellectuality comes in regional language, then all these upper caste children who are studying in English medium, they should have been in the forest now looking after cattle. They should have grazed cow, planted, harvesting crops. What are they doing? Why more English medium fellows are coming into civil service? That survey says regional language fellows are not getting there. And this survey says regional language people are people can learn better knowledge. Now what is knowledge then? Hypocrisy, deceptivity, anti-science, anti-global vision is knowledge, is it? These people are trying to fool the Shudras. That is where even Kammas and Reddys got fooled. Their children are not there in Ashoka University now. Not even in JNU. Not even in Delhi University. They were there in some engineering college, medicine, make money. Philosophy is in the hands of the Brahmins and Banyas. Wealth and philosophy. Therefore, God is also in their hands. Muslims also deceive like that. So the best, richest send their children. In Pakistan, all rich educate their children only in England. Why are you not educating in Makkah? Makkah is your holiest place, but for education, England becomes holiest. London becomes holiest. Ye kya hai? So therefore, this hypocritical education policy is like hypocritical language policy in religion. One religion says God understands only Sanskrit. Another religion says Allah understands only Arabic. Now, if God has created all languages, why God doesn't understand all languages? What is wrong if Allah has created everything, including every language, why doesn't Allah understand English prayer? Now, this is the problem of both so-called secular, deceptive intellectuals and the Muslim, the religious, Muslim or non-Muslim, Christian or anybody. Catholics do the same thing. They start high-end English medium schools, give admission only to educated parents' children. Rubbish. What was the education of Jesus when he started his whole struggle? Jesus was not a PhD. Why are you admitting in Saint Mary, Saint Joseph, Saint Anne's or Saint Xavier, Saint Thomas schools, only educated parent children? All these people, when it comes to education, they want their own children to be on the top. I don't want to deceive people as an intellectual. That is the reason why I call myself Shepherd. Shepherd never deceives anybody. Shepherd does not distinguish between sheep and sheep. So I know what these people are talking. They are hypocrites and want to exploit, eat without working in the fields. I want all Shudra, Dalit, Adivasi children and Muslim, Christian, anybody, poor people, put their children only in English medium. Let world speak one language. That is what God's wish was. One day, all world will speak one wish. That's what the God's wish. What is wrong with that? If we write one book, millions of copies should be sold today. My books have best-selling market. But what is the total? The latest Shudra book with all its best-selling, so far it's sold only 5,000 copies. Mm-hmm. If it is in America or Europe, even in England, small country like Netherlands, any book in their language, it will sell at least 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 copies. In America, any damn book will sell about 1 million copies because people read.
True.
Here nobody is reading. They don't read Telugu, they don't read English. Then what do? They don't read religious books. No, this hypocrisy I want to break. Come what may.
Sure, sir. Coming to the idea of representation, there is a report which says that there are only out of 89 secretaries in the Modi government, there are just 3 scheduled tribes, 1 Dalit, and no OBCs at all in the higher central bureaucracy. What do you think is the reason for this abysmal representation, in spite of having the policy of promotion in reservations?
No, the simple reason is those who rule Delhi, Delhi is ruled by Dvijas, Brahmin, Banya, Kayastha, Khatri, and few Kshatriyas. There is also high-end foreign English educated problem there. They think that even the Shudras and the farmers who produce food, their sons and daughters are also anti-national. So they don't want them to come into high-end cabinet, Delhi cabinet. They don't want them to go to foreign countries, represent India. When it comes to Muslims, BJP, RSS people say, no, Muslims are anti-national. You Shudra, OBC, all of you are national, you are with us. But when it comes to Delhi Secretariat, these people are anti-national. There is no merit with them. And the Shudras never understood this. In 74 years of Indian freedom, even during Nehru government, it was like that. Indira Gandhi, it was like that. Rajiv Gandhi, it was like that. And UPA, it was like that. Now, the same thing. Now the fight is with the Shudra book. The fight is that this is the book. The Shudras including Kammas, Reddys, Kapus, Jats, Gujars, Patel, have to occupy Delhi Secretary. And then they have to occupy foreign embassy offices as ambassadors. Otherwise, 52% of Shudras don't exist in Delhi Secretariat. Of course, after the book came and then farmer agitation came, Narendra Modi quickly realized and then he changed the cabinet, 27 Shudra OBC members and some 18 or so Dalits and some tribals. But in the real governance, they are not there.
Mm-hmm.
That is the reason why I want a Shudra revolt.
Mm-hmm.
Unless the Shudras revolt, Jats, Gujars, Patels, Marathas, Kammas, Reddys, Lingayat, Vakalinga, Nayars, that Shashi Tharoor writes a book, I am a Hindu, but he is not a Brahmin who he cannot, his relatives cannot be priests. And you ask for equality. You say that you are a Shudra, simply because you know some English, you have not become a Brahmin. So that is the problem. That is the reason why we are trying to hold a massive convention in Delhi of the Shudra OBCs and tell them that you are not there in Delhi government and they are using you only as muscle power, not mind power. You are there to produce food, you are there to produce vegetables, you are there to till the lands or make the pots, but not to rule. No, it will change now.
Sir, in many of your interviews, you have spoken about how the Muslim rulers and the Muslim elite have not written enough about the issues of caste and of untouchability. Why do you think they were blind to this oblivious reality of Indian society?
Well, you know, the first Muslim scholar who wrote on India was Al-Biruni. He wrote a book called Al-Hind in the 12th century. He wrote about Brahmins, he wrote about the slaves, he wrote about the wretched conditions of India. He wrote in Arabic. And later on, gradually Persian replaced Arabic. And by the time the Mughals came, the Brahmins and Kayasthas and Khatris, three communities, realized that the Muslims are going to rule India forever. Whether they wanted to, they did not want to convert into Islam, because there was a very strong sense of their own Vedas and Upanishads and so on, but they learned Persian language. Now, the Muslim rulers did not see the difference between a Brahmin and a Shudra and Dalit. They have not produced social science scholars. Islamic society as a whole, not only just in India, but on the whole, except in the early period of formation of Islam, they have not come out of the clutches of the clergy, the mullahs, and wrote investigative social science books that happened about their own society, but more so in India. They could have easily understood, take for example, Telangana. The Nizam ruled Telangana till 1948. There was untouchability here. There were Muslim Tahsildars, Muslim revenue officers, Muslim forest officers, Muslim collectors, but nobody tried to abolish caste because they did not want to displease Brahmins. And there is no scholarship. Even now, hardly any Muslims thinks of writing a serious book on inequality and caste. They're dead scared of the Brahmins. And but that scare of a Brahmin priest or a Brahmin colleague is not a honest belief in God also. A honest believer in God will tell the truth in social science. These people don't even do that. So the entire Muslim rulers, of course, many rulers got converted from upper caste. Take for example, Jinnah himself was a convert from Baniyas. Iqbal was a convert from Kashmiri Brahmins. There were many who became Urdu writers, they were converted from. So one Muslim scholar was telling in Delhi conference that, the Persian language itself was casteist. Because in Iran, there were castes. Whereas Arabic does not have casteist rules. So once Persian language replaced Arabic and native languages, it remained inequality blind. But that is unjust and even against the will of God, it is wrong. How can a language be like that? They say that it is like Sanskrit. It did not want to go beyond its own spiritual domain and see inequality, injustice as part of its existence. Sanskrit never wrote a book against caste in Sanskrit, so also in Persian and also in Urdu. Now my worry is, in spite of Aligarh Muslim University and Jamia Millia, they are not writing. And they want our support to fight to their cause. Yes, they are suffering now. But you have more intellectual than the Shudra OBCs have. If you don't write about us and about yourself, how do you expect us to protect you? That's not possible.
So, according to Rohini Committee's findings, 97% of all jobs and educational seats have gone to just 25% of all subcastes classified as OBCs. Recently, a similar debate has been reopened by the Supreme Court of India on the need for subcategorization of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. What are your views on this whole quota within quota system?
Well, in this book, there is one essay by Dr. Vinay, who comes from a Kapu community, who is a top doctor in Apollo, Hyderabad. He said that we should go for very strict creamy layer in order to percolate the reservation benefits to other layers down in the system. In North India, Yadavs were opposing creamy layer issue. But there is a reason there. The reason is that even with creamy layer contesting with 8 lakh income base for civil service, all the posts are not being filled. If those rich who got some education and then could compete, if they are eliminated, they are pushed into general, many more seats from these reserved quotas will be vacant. They will again go to the open up, Dvija communities. In open reservation, there are no Shudra upper caste also. It's only Dvijas who are occupying all the position. Various designs are there, various mechanisms, not just merit in that system. So our feeling is that the good quality English medium education from LKG to 12th to all, and creamy layer application will bring lot of surplus knowledge into every category. Then vacancy question does not arise. Sheer numbers of Shudra, OBC, Dalits, they will get, and then layer by layer we need to implement. After 30-40 years, if all of our children are educated in the similar pattern, including abolishing of private schools like Britain, we can remove reservation itself after 35-40 years. So that they don't want that. Because once the rural children get in English medium educated, these urban upper caste children, whatever they are, they can't compete with them. Rural children are more competent in holistic knowledge. The only problem today is they don't have good English, good teaching and infrastructural schools. Once that comes, they will outbeat.
Sure, sir. One last question before we conclude this podcast, sir. You might have interacted with a number of policy makers in your lifetime. What will be your one simple advice to the future policy makers?
Well, the future policy makers of India should represent all castes and communities. There is a caste, class, and religious bias in India. Unless the representations go everywhere, you can't do justice. The second one is we have to compete in policy understanding and implementation with China. Because there is no point, the present government wants to compete with Pakistan and Arab world. I don't think that is a good idea. Even with the West, you don't have to compete right now because there is so much of a gap between the Western democracy and Indian democracies. So the best way is to compete with China and see their school system, their agrarian economy, their industrial mechanisms, their market, and their global institutional expansion and so on. So, but unless we bring in all caste communities into policy making and women on equal basis, we will not be able to do a very efficient job in that. So let our institutions de-Brahmanize themselves or de-Dvijize, and then dignity of labor must become a major teaching content in our schools. Shoemaking, pot making, shepherding, cattle rearing, and harvesting. All of them should be taught to all children at various levels. Otherwise, the nation will not survive. And the market mechanisms should be exploitation free. But the middlemen who don't work anywhere else will come into middleman market and exploit. So I have written quite a lot about this. And the young students in universities must focus on our village skills, village social justice patterns, and village science and technology. Write a number of books on our indigenous knowledge systems. Then we will definitely overcome many of our weaknesses. Thank you.
Sir, that is a great thought in this podcast. With it has always inspired us whenever we heard you speak. And today you have been very generous by spending your time with us. Thank you so much for this opportunity. We appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you, sir.